Well, hello everybody, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Story to Screen podcast, the movie podcast where we review all different kinds of movies, new and old. I'm your host, Chris, and joining me again are two of the biggest hooligans I've ever met on this planet, Ian Moffat and Benjamin Curley. Welcome to the show.
Hey, what's up?
Howdy, howdy.
How you guys doing?
Oh, we're just boring.
Yeah,
You know.
Yeah, I can tell after 20 minutes of trying to set this record straight with the sound mixer and all that stuff. Yeah, you guys were kind of coming in a little boring. So, but and
You got a reputation to keep up.
I know, right? We can't ruin that.
Uh-huh.
Ian, I have noticed that's been your favorite quote lately. I know, right?
I know, right? Yeah, that's one of those. That's my go-to phrase, unfortunately.
I know, right?
You guys could just keep on, back and forth with that.
I know, right?
Anyway, today's movie review will be the brand new movie, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. It stars Jason Clarke, Gary Oldman, and Andy Serkis.
What? Go to a circus?
Yeah, we're gonna go to a circus.
Yes.
Go with apes and monkeys and.
Can I get a balloon?
Woohoo!
So anyway, let's just go ahead and just jump into our weekly segments. Now, this past week, in terms of, we got a lot of trailers, interesting trailers, and the first one I want to bring up is the highly anticipated new movie, Exodus. Excuse me, it was from Ridley Scott, the director of Gladiator. Did any of you guys see this trailer?
And don't forget Alien.
Alien.
Yeah.
And
He directed Alien.
And Prometheus. Prometheus is not important.
No, that doesn't count.
But anyway, did any of you guys see Exodus, the trailer?
Yes. And it was one of those, oh.
Yeah. I saw it as well. I saw it a few days ago, just browsing Facebook, and then, I did see it again today in the theater. It's, we'll see.
I think that about sums it up right there.
My whole thing is, look, I like Christian Bale. I like his work. I just don't see Moses.
He's not a Moses. It doesn't fit for me.
No. I think
who can replace Charlton Heston?
That's true.
Yeah.
Those are some big shoes to fill.
Yeah.
Or sandals, sorry.
Yeah, well...
Tunic as well. Don't forget that.
That's true.
Yeah. I mean... I'm kind of curious about this film. My biggest curiosity is what is... is this going to be the Noah? Or is this going to be kind of different from that movie? Well, I noticed how they put gods... plural. Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of wondering if this is going to be a movie where both God and the Egyptian gods are going to exist.
Isn't that almost like, what was that Civil War movie? Wasn't that Gods and Generals or
Gods
something?
And Generals,
like that? Yeah. So I take it as the play off of that same concept. They're just trying to create a big epic name so that
that's kind of true. But at the same time, this is Ridley Scott we're kind of talking about here.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the guy who's made the Kingdom of Heaven, which was very controversial when it came out because it was a very, it didn't seem to maintain the true motivations of why they were fighting the Crusades and all that stuff. It seemed to be a much more contemporary view of what was going on at the time.
It did a little bit better than some other historical textbooks, but yeah.
Let me think. I don't think there's anything else concerning weekly segments. I think, well, let's just go ahead and just dive into our review.
We've been through hell together. We spent 4 years. 4 years fighting that virus and then another 4 fighting each other. It was chaos. But you all know what we're up against.
I need to speak to Caesar!
And I want you to know, it's not just about power, it's about giving us the hope to rebuild and reclaim the world we lost.
What you guys just heard was the trailer for the new movie Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. It stars Gary Oldman, Andy Serkis, and Jason Clarke, and it's directed by Matt Reeves. Benjamin, since you weren't here last week, I'm pointing the finger at you since you weren't.
Do I get a cookie?
No.
Aww.
Anyway, Ben, since you weren't here, would you like to just kind of express your thoughts and opinions on the Rise of the Planet of the Apes, what you thought of it, and you can just, and from there you can just go on and just tell us what you thought of the Dawn.
Yeah, okay. First of all, the names constantly confuse me. I'm getting them mixed up all the time. Which one was Rise, which one's Dawn? They both throw me off. But besides that, I remember watching the Rise in theaters. What was it? 3 years ago? 4 years ago?
It was like 3 years ago. Yeah, 2011.
And I thought it was really good. I loved seeing that remake, and I love that they went with a genetic approach instead of an evolutionary approach to it.
Yeah.
And I was really impressed, and I look forward to seeing more. It just, and I actually, blanking on his name now.
James Franco.
Yes, I enjoyed Franco's performance there.
It's a very earnest performance, actually.
So he's a very likable character there. And I think they really delivered well with that, and set it up perfectly for this second film, which I loved. It was really good. The visual effects weren't groundbreaking, but they were what we've come to expect as far as visual effects go. But the story was really, really well thought out, and in some places unexpected but fulfilling at the same time. Mm-hmm. So that's about it. I'll leave it from there.
Ian.
Yeah, I completely agree. I walked out of it actually thinking, man, that was like an old school approach to storytelling. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, much like the other one. Now I'm getting the names confused too.
Rise
of the Planet of the Apes. Now that I'm actually looking at the Wikipedia page I have up, it was almost an old school form of storytelling, and it didn't assume too much of the audience, but didn't assume the audience was a bunch of morons either.
Yeah, too many of those. Cough, Michael Bay.
Yes, cough, cough. Michael Bay explosion. But
we'll get into that a little later. Don't worry about that. But go ahead.
But yeah, I really enjoyed it.
I'm about to top both of you, so here it goes.
Oh snap!
Oh boy.
This movie is. I left this theater just in complete and utter awe of what I had just seen. It was outstanding, and this is. I'm going to say it. This is not just one of the best sequels ever made. This is one of the best movies of the year, and by far that I've seen in a long time period.
Mm.
I mean, it was. I think what I liked about it was the human struggle, because this was. It was almost like a in a twisted kind of way. It was almost like kind of brother against brother, civilizations against civilization. It was that kind of the the white man versus the Indian story, which I've always found very fascinating in American history. You know, that struggle. and the apes are kind of the Native Americans, and the humans in San Francisco are like the settlers in that sense, and just that struggle, that human struggle to have of peace and a connection with these primates, and they did it in such a way that was human. That's what really stuck with me the most about this movie, was that kind of struggle to maintain that struggle to have a better civilization just for the sake of peace.
Yeah.
It was a really interesting movie, and not just the conflict that took place with the two different civilizations, but with the conflict that took place from within as well. I felt like, while there was some great stuff with the humans, I was more engaged with the ape inner conflict, especially with like Koba. The hatred towards the human beings for what they had done to him in the past, and Caesar. His arc actually kind of surprised me. While there was still some resistance toward the humans, you still managed to see the side where he was willing to give them a chance to prove themselves, but certain things came up, and that's just a credit to Andy Serkis, period. But yeah, I feel like this is probably my favorite movie of the year so far. It beat Lego Movie, so
Yes.
Well, I was gonna say I think it really did. It's a good place to go for case studies on leadership styles. We're presented with 3 different types of leadership. We had Dreyfus leading the humans, and how his leadership was based on emotions and motivation. And then we had Koba, who's fear, and then we had Caesar, and his leadership was very love based. And it's amazing how quickly people who were led under him just reacted to what he wanted, just because of his different leadership style. And I just found that really intriguing. And then personal favorite part of the story, what kind of took me by surprise, was the kind of turning on its head that it wasn't the humans who started this whole conflict.
Yeah.
And I found that really refreshing.
Yeah, I agree with you. That was one thing I was thinking while I was watching, is like, the humans aren't the ones starting this.
Yeah, I know. And that's so typical for, some bad egg in the group to start the whole war, but it wasn't in this. I mean, it was, but it wasn't the way we expected it to.
Yeah. We thought it was going to probably be one of the humans for a while, but no, it was the one that was filled with the most hatred. And usually, sometimes the one that is filled with the most hatred and the most who's been tormented is the one that is usually going to take, unforgivable acts of action. That's what's going to drive them to do something horrible.
Well, I think every character acted very well within their nature, within the way they were written and set up to be.
Yeah.
I think they were very consistent. There wasn't any, I'm supposed to be the hero, but no, I'm going to kill this person just because I think it's the right thing to do. They were very consistent with who they were.
Well, one of the things that kind of stood out to me was that Caesar was still being presented as the noble leader. And I thought for a while there, and this was actually brilliant because the trailer in the opening shot, or in the opening shot with the close up of Caesar's face, you're thinking they're about to do an attack on the humans. That's what I thought at first, but no, they were just hunting deer and all that, and it just shows you how much of an impact the James Franco character, had on him. And just that continuing desire to honor what his master taught him, and to in a way maintain the human side that was implanted in him, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And I just some great stuff there. I mean, Serkis, if you get an Oscar nomination, this is the time. I'm sorry, yeah. If you're listening to this, you need to get the nomination. So.
Dude, if this movie doesn't get any Oscar nominations, I'm going to be very disappointed.
Yeah.
I think this is I actually think this is, since they've increased it to 10, I think this is actually a sure at least a front runner for Best Picture. I don't know if it's going to win. I think there's going to be some other contenders, more worthy contenders, but later on. But I do see this one getting a nomination for Best Picture. I don't know about.
I know this genre doesn't typically get Best Screenplay, but or Best Story, but I really think it should.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, like one thing that really stood out to me was kind of the reflection or study, if you will, of human nature.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And how that was reflected in the apes versus the humans. And I mean, one line that really stood out to me was when Caesar was on the couch, and they pulled the bullet out of him, and he was talking to his son, and he just said, "We're just like them."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's like, yes, someone finally gets it. It's like, yes.
Yeah, seriously, it's like we are not the, what's the word I'm looking for to properly encapsulate the arrogant people who, yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's like, yeah, human beings can be messed up, but it's never just one group of people.
Yeah, it's all of us. We all have the potential to be the worst creatures ever.
Exactly.
In a way, it's almost kind of showing the animal that potentially lied within them, as on the human side. Yeah, and that's something we've kind of seen. Like maybe Dances with Wolves is a good example of that idea.
Yeah, but that still was very one-sided. It didn't balance the equilibrium like Dawn did. Dawn it took two extreme characters, and even though they're not all human, it put them in almost racial stereotypes, and it took that line, it just erased the line and said, no, they're all the same. Mm-hmm. So you can really transfer that same mindset over into racial stuff. It's like, no, you're not superior. That's the word I was looking for, superior. You're not superior to this other race of people. You're identical to them and they to you. And their capacity for good or evil is identical to yours. So don't set yourself up above, what you think they're doing. If you think they're doing it, you're just as capable, and it's probably happening right under your nose.
We don't mean any harm!
They're apes, man. Do you think they understand what you're saying?
Do they look like just apes to you?
Dad.
Malcolm, what are you doing?
Dad.
Malcolm.
It's okay. Okay.
Let's talk about some of the performances, because I think honestly this actually had some of the best performances, in far better than what the first one had. Jason Clarke, the guy who played Malcolm. There was this one scene, the moment when he goes to visit Caesar, and the big gorilla guy comes up, and then they all surround him, and then they take him to Caesar. The way that his eyes, I bought in his terror at that moment. Like, I don't know if it was just those haunting blue eyes, whatever, but I bought his terror in that scene. I mean, and he was great in the overall movie itself, but it's that scene specifically that really stood out.
I thought he was very good. It was, like you said, it was hard not to buy his performance, because it was honest, it was earnest, and it was to pile on the adjectives, it was very heartfelt. Mm-hmm. You could almost feel his fear or his joy or his anger. And, he really stepped into the character and made that character his own.
Yeah, I found nothing wrong with his performance-wise. No, I quite enjoyed it. Nothing really stood out to me as anything special. No. But he was a very likable character, and you did trust him. You really did trust that he was doing what he thought was best, and he was really trying to see both sides and make peace. So that was easy to buy.
Yeah,
you never suspected him of any malintent.
Gary Oldman didn't really have that much of a of a presence in the movie. I thought he was going to have a little bit more. He's the Bryan. I wouldn't say the Bryan Cranston of this movie. We won't have to go into that conversation, Godzilla thing. But I'm sorry, but he was looking way too much like Commissioner Gordon.
It's the glasses.
Yeah.
I'm thinking to myself, this is not Gotham, man. You're in the wrong place. Andy Serkis. My gosh, just another great motion capture performance in this movie. I know we talked about it already, but
it's typical Andy Serkis. You expect great things and you get it.
Yeah. No disappointment there. I mean, I don't know what else to say on that. Except that perhaps I could almost visualize him in place of Caesar saying those things. So I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing.
Apes! Do not want war!
Do not come back.
Ben, I want to ask you this. Have you seen most of the other ape films?
Yes, I've seen them all.
Okay. Do any of the events that we see in these movies, and more specifically Dawn, are there any like hints of this type of conflict going on?
Yes, I think it's the fourth Planet of the Apes film where it's really funky because time travel is involved. Because they basically go back and rewrite history. Anyways, it's kind of funky.
So it's called Planet of the Apes: Days of Future Past.
Seriously, but
so that's where they got the idea.
There is one film where they have a conflict where you have Caesar leading a village, and they're kind of come to clashes with the humans that are still alive, but they're only partially alive because the reason they got wiped out was because of a nuclear war that happened. I can't remember why now. I think it was something to do with war with the apes. I'm not entirely sure.
Okay,
it's been a while since I watched it, but yeah, there was some similarity there, but nothing on that scale.
Okay, so they've kind of hinted at some things. Maybe I don't think. Well, again, you just kind of said they hinted at the War of the Apes, where they unleashed the nuclear bomb. You said that right? The nuclear bomb or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I mean, this movie. Well, let's go ahead and say it. I mean, this movie is setting up what I'm assuming is going to be called War of the Planet of the Apes. I mean, for the third film. I mean, this was, and that's what I like. Well, this was kind of interesting because the time. Well, you would think that because the movie's like 10 years after the events of the first film, you would think that there would be like it would be all out war at this point in time, but no, because we saw all the gunfights and all that stuff in the trailers, but apparently no, it's just they've been in peace. They have not had any communications whatsoever with the humans or the humans with the apes. They've all been. I still think it's the redwood. But no, it's just the seeds are being planted for the war, obviously. I mean, and as you kind of said earlier, the twist of this movie was that it wasn't started by the humans or anything like that. It was started by the apes. But the one thing that did get to me was like, well, couldn't Jason Clarke persuade the army? Well, the army was coming. Do you guys think it was possible that Jason Clarke could have actually, or at least try to talk to them about that? No. This was caused by somebody else. That they're innocent. They didn't do anything. This was not their fault. Let them be. Or do you think the damage was too severe that the army will have to take extreme measures for whatever they're going to have to do in the third film?
It's really hard to say. I mean, the best way to judge that is to pull it into an actual historical perspective and look at where stuff like that has happened before and what our reaction has been. And usually, if action is taken against us, we will retaliate. just natural.
Yeah, and what was it cool about that in a way was that it was made very clear that Caesar understood that to be the case, and that he was willing. I mean, that kind of going back a little bit. That was one really cool thing about it was that Caesar showed. Kind of going back to what Benjamin said, actually, Caesar, his leadership. He was really willing to take responsibility for someone else's actions and accept the consequences, even if that meant potentially getting wiped out by the military. So that was the cool part. Like, you could just tell he understood what was coming.
Now, Benjamin, you kind of said that the apes didn't look as good as they did previously.
Well, I didn't say that. They didn't wow me because, well, I don't think the film was designed to wow. They didn't stand out as especially good, but they weren't bad in any way. Nothing in their
astonish you.
Nothing stood out as not working. It all worked quite well. And the one thing that I really actually did think was amazing was the depth in the eyes. Whenever they focus on any of the ape's eyes, it's just wow. That looks like a real eye.
Yeah.
But that's, as far as the CG goes, that's the only thing that wowed me. The rest of it, I just expected because that's the bar that they've set.
But I actually think they looked a little bit better this time around. In the first one, while they looked great in the first one, there were points and times where I could tell that the CGI aspects were kind of very obvious, especially like in certain close-up shots. But this time around, they improved very much. They improved significantly. It was actually nice to see a Planet of the Apes movie where they were actually riding horses and then they were just shooting machine guns and all that stuff. Because that's
I don't think they had machine guns, but they did have guns. Yeah, and they were riding horses and everything else. Yeah, so it is definitely keeping in theme with the original movies.
Now, did any of you catch that one little nod to the idea of evolution where Caesar says, "We are, humans. You humans are." Well, what was it again? Like, you humans are similar to us, or almost kind of hinting at a possibility, like the whole an evolutionary nod, so to speak. Did you catch something like that?
It was another one of those subtle, evolution kind of things, which, a lot of times when movies try to shove that in, it kind of turns me off to it. Because it's just like, dude, just tell the story. Yeah. But this was just like, there's an underlying assumption, but they didn't make it in your face. Mm-hmm. It was just kind of a subtle, like you said, a nod.
Subtle little nod. But it was more kind of saying, like, as you were kind of saying, kind of we're similar in terms of our our desires and our mentalities. We are capable of.
Yeah, and that's how I took it. I didn't see it as anything but that. Truthfully, I didn't see it as an evolutionary nod. I mean, I certainly could have been.
I mean,
I thought he was just kind of emphasizing the rest of it, that we're similar in our character and in our capabilities.
Yeah. It could be like a little wink, or it could be like a double meaning, so to speak, where it's trying to say two things at once. But now let's talk about Matt Reeves' direction in this movie. I thought he did a really great job in this movie, and just in terms of, again, kind of doing what I liked about the first one, kind of balancing the human drama with the spectacle. But I think this time around, the human drama was the compelling aspect, not the spectacle.
Well, definitely the front seat, yeah.
I know him primarily from Cloverfield, and that's kind of the only big film on his resume. But did any of you guys see Cloverfield?
I did not.
Yeah, I did. I saw it in the theater, and I don't know.
Is that regret, I hear?
A little bit, yeah. Because let's just say I'm not a huge fan of the shaky cam.
Oh, there was no shaky cam.
And that was 95% of Cloverfield. In fact, if I had a weaker stomach, I probably would have gotten nauseous during that film. But but fortunately, he didn't bring any of that into Dawn of the Planet of the Apes.
No,
and I was very pleasantly surprised by that.
Yeah. I do want to bring this up, though, because I think this is, for a summer that we had movies like Transformers, Age of Extinction, and, these, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, those movies, not that I saw Transformers, but, those movies just have no merit whatsoever. I mean, I don't know if any of you guys see Amazing Spider-Man 2?
I never did get around to it.
Don't. I'm just telling you, don't see it. I tried watching the first hour, and I just shut it off because I can't get through this at all. This was just ludicrous stupidity, and just definitely highlighting the stupidity and the people who are incapable of writing an engaging script. And but this is just one of the best blockbusters I've seen this year, and I mean, I think right next to Cap, this just had a lot, just so much sincerity and heart, and I just think this was just a great sequel, just a great film, period, all around, and it just shows you when you have a director who is just really, really talented, and a script that's just solid, what you can achieve. I mean, I look at Captain America, and even though I wasn't a huge fan of it, Edge of Tomorrow, I felt those movies just had a lot of. I felt the heart in those movies, and looking at other blockbusters this season, which there have been many, and they've just been put out there, a la Transformers, and I just hate it that we live in an age where blockbusters, like going back to the blockbusters of like Spielberg, E.T., Jaws. This is definitely one of them, and that's something I should have said at the beginning of the show, that this is a film that has those merits to them, and I really like it for those reasons.
I mean, I can't think of what else I can add to what I've said about it. It was a good film. The story was superb. I couldn't find any flaws in the story that stood out to me.
No, this is just one of those rare examples.
It's just it was really good. It was well thought out and well played in every aspect I can think of. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, same here. It's just
I wish we'd see more films like it.
I know,
right? I mean, the script was fantastic. The cinematography was good. The editing was good. The directing obviously was very good. It was just...
Yeah. In the last movie, I remember walking out of the theater and wanting to engage people in morality questions and conversations was Ender's Game, which I thought was really, really well done. So it's really a rare thing for a film to hit that note where you want to talk about the deep, the depravity of man and all. You get you excited about it and you want to talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So I mean, it's setting us up for a sequel. I mean, you guys excited for one? I mean, do you really want to see Matt Reeves come back and do another one, or do you want to see somebody else kind of have a shot at it?
I think if they can replicate what they did with Dawn, then yeah, bring on another sequel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I like their pattern of waiting a few years. I would prefer that, actually.
I think that's the
3-4 years before they bring another one out.
I think that's the plan. I think the next one, from what I've heard, is either 2017 or 2014.
That's a better idea, especially with Star Wars coming out. They do not want to compete with that.
No.
That would be a bad idea.
Yeah. I mean, Star Wars could be bad, and it'll mop the floor with just about anybody. At least the first one will. Then we'll catch on.
Hopefully.
As we close up here, I will say, caution. It is a darker film, a lot more violent. And also, unfortunately, the only disappointment that I had with this movie was the language. That kind of got a little out of hand.
I was just about to bring that up. Maybe I was just too engrossed with the story, but I really don't remember much language at all.
There was a bit of the S word.
I think I remember hearing that once. Yeah,
I do remember they did drop the F-bomb once.
Yes.
Okay, that surprises me. I must have just been way too engaged with the story. Either that or was napping.
It came from Gordon's mouth, actually. So there you go. And there's some other profanity. So I wouldn't really recommend this movie in terms of for kids. Or no. This is definitely not a movie for kids. But for teenagers on up and adults, I would actually give this movie a recommend. I would probably wait until to Clear Play maybe if you're that sensitive for the audience. Mm-hmm. But other than that, I would give this movie a solid recommend for teenagers on up.
Yeah, mature audiences.
Yeah.
I concur.
Ian, Ben, thank you very much for coming onto this show. Ian, where can audiences find more of your work at?
You can check me out at www.apologiaproductions.com. I guess these days you really don't need to do the www part.
It's okay.
It just ties up your tongue before you present the rest of it.
I know. And then you can look up my videos on YouTube under Ian Maphet, Maphet.
Benjamin.
I.
Benjamin, where can they find more of your work?
You go to speedy-productions.com. I've got, I think that website's still working. I haven't updated it in a little while. And then my latest one is indyvfx.com. That's INDYVFX.com. I've got a bunch of my 3D models and other visual effects stuff there. I'm trying to start a blog on just interesting stuff like that.
Okay. Ooh. All right. There you go. So anyway, that will do it tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining us. We're gonna, as we speak, we're gonna try to get our Steve Glosson interview done pretty soon. We didn't get a chance to do it this morning. Scheduling conflicts occurred. We'll try to get it out as soon as we can. And we're going to be also taking a little bit of a break for like 2 weeks, and then we're going to be coming back with our classic movie series that we're going to be doing pretty soon. So I'm your host, Chris.
And I'm Benjamin.
And I am Ian.
And good night, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll catch you next time on Story to Screen Movie Review Podcast.